The twin suns of planet Rathor were sinking behind the mountains, painting the sky in dull red and gray. The air was thick with smoke and the sound of machines, metal clanging, engines hissing, and alien voices shouting in the crowded market. Dust blew through the air like ash. The city was tired, broken, and full of secrets. Among the noise and shadows, a small alien girl moved slowly through the crowd. Her skin was pale silver and her eyes were closed, not by choice, but because they no longer worked. She carried a small round stone in her hand, feeling its warmth as if it helped her find her way. Her name was Lyra. "Mother?" she whispered. Her voice was soft, shaking. "Mother, where are you?" No one answered. She took a few careful steps forward, her feet bare on the cold metal floor. People brushed past her, not even looking down. Some muttered. Others stared, then turned away. No one wanted to help a blind alien child. On this planet, kindness was dangerous. Lyra stopped beside a food stall. She could smell the sharp scent of cooked metal fish and burning oil. Her stomach hurt with hunger, but she said nothing. She lifted her face toward the sound of footsteps and asked again, "Have you seen my mother?" The alien shopkeeper frowned. "Go away, child. No trouble here." Lyra nodded and stepped back, bumping into a metal crate. The crowd moved like a river, fast and careless. Someone pushed her shoulder. She fell to her knees, the warm stone rolling out of her hand. She reached for it, searching the dirty ground with her small fingers. Then a voice, deep and human, spoke from nearby. "Hey, are you all right?" The market noise faded a little. Lyra froze. She had never heard a voice like that before. It was rough, but not cruel. It sounded human. She turned her head slightly. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer. His name was Elias Ward, though few here knew it. He wore a dark jacket covered in dust, and his eyes looked tired. The kind of tired that came from too many battles and too many regrets. He had been a soldier once in the great human Dravak War. Now, he was just another wanderer hiding from his past. He saw the girl searching the ground, and without a word he bent down and picked up the small round stone. He placed it in her hand. "Here," he said softly. "You dropped this." Lyra's fingers trembled as she took it back. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she tilted her head slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. "You're human." Elias blinked. "Yeah, how did you know?" "I can feel sound," she said, touching her forehead lightly. "I can see." With my mind, he frowned, watching her. There was something strange about her calmness, about how her blind eyes seemed to follow him anyway. The war had ended years ago, but humans were still hated here. A human helping an alien child could get him arrested, nor worse. He looked around. The market crowd had noticed them now. A few traders whispered, pointing at him. He could feel the tension in the air. His instincts told him to walk away. But something about the girl, her voice, her bravery, on him stopped him. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Lyra," she said. "I lost my mother. The soldiers took her. I can feel her far away, but I can't reach her." "The soldiers?" Elias's voice hardened. "What soldiers?" She turned her head toward the sound of the wind and said, "The ones who wear light. They call themselves the Light Hunters." Elias felt his stomach twist. He knew that name. The Light Hunters were not aliens, they were humans. His people. His old unit, even. They were supposed to keep peace after the war. But he had heard whispers that they did darker things. Lyra's small hand gripped his sleeve. "Please," she said. "Can you help me find her?" He hesitated. The smart answer was no. Helping her meant risking everything. The Light Hunters didn't forgive traitors. He had already lost his career, his home, his future. If he got caught, it would be the end of him. But when he looked down at the little girl, blind, shaking, but still brave, something inside him moved. It had been years since he had seen innocence like that. Years since he had done anything good. He took a slow breath. "Where did they take her?" Lyra tilted her head. "I don't know the place, but I can feel her, like a voice in the dark. She's calling for me." The crowd began to move again, louder now. A group of armored soldiers appeared at the end of the market street. The crest on their chests glowed white, the mark of the Light Hunters. Elias's jaw tightened. He looked down at Lyra. "We need to go, now." He reached out his hand. She hesitated, then took it. As they slipped into the shadows of the narrow alley, Lyra whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Elias didn't answer. He just said, Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. Behind them, the soldiers shouted orders. The hunt had begun. And in that moment, on a dying world full of fear and silence, one small act of kindness would begin a story that could change the stars. The alley was dark and full of steam. Rusty pipes ran along the walls, dripping yellow water that smelled of metal and smoke. Elias led Lyra through narrow turns, his hand firm but gentle around hers. Behind them, the sound of boots echoed, sharp, steady hunting. The light hunters were close. "Keep quiet," Elias whispered. Lyra nodded, her head tilted, listening. "There are 6 of them," she said softly. "1 in front, 5 behind." Elias froze. "How do you know that?" "I can hear their hearts," she said, her voice almost calm. "They beat too fast." He looked at her, half in awe, half in fear. "You can hear that far?" She smiled weakly. "I told you. I see with sound." He didn't understand it, but right now he didn't need to. He just needed to get her out alive. They turned a corner and stopped at a broken gate. Beyond it, an old transport yard stretched out under the red sky. Ships lay in ruins, burnt shells and twisted metal. Elias scanned the area. His own small ship, the Sparrow, was hidden somewhere beyond those wrecks. "Come on," he said. "We need to move fast." As they ran, Lyra suddenly stumbled. Elias caught her before she fell. Her breathing quickened. "The air, it's full of pain," she whispered. "Many died here." Elias looked around. She was right. He could see the marks of old battle, shattered helmets, blood dried into the ground. This place was a graveyard of the last war, the war between humans and her kind. He had fought here once. He remembered the fire, the orders, the screams. He remembered thinking he was doing the right thing, until the day he saw what war really did. That was the day he left, the day he swore he would never fight again, but now, running with this blind alien child beside him, he felt that same war chasing him once more. They reached the far end of the yard where a small, battered ship waited, hidden under a tarp and layers of sand. Elias pulled it open, revealing the Sparrow. Its metal body was scarred and old, but still working. "Get inside," he said. Lyra touched the side of the ship and smiled faintly. "It's warm." "Like it knows you?" He gave a small laugh. "Maybe it does." She climbed in, feeling the walls like they were alive. Inside, the cabin smelled of oil and dust. The seats were torn, the lights flickered weakly. Elias sat in the pilot's chair and started the engines. The sound of the thrusters filled the air like a growl waking from sleep. Outside, soldiers shouted. The glow of their armor cut through the fog. "Hold on," Elias said. The ship lifted, shaking, and blasted into the sky. Dust and fire swirled below as they escaped the yard. Lyra clung to her seat. "They're following." "I know," Elias muttered, tapping buttons on the screen. "We just need to reach the storm line. Their scanners can't follow us through that." "What's a storm line?" "You'll see," he said, then added with a grin, "Actually, maybe it's better if you don't." She laughed softly, and for a moment the fear disappeared. Minutes later, the ship entered the storm. The sky turned black and green. Lightning cracked across the clouds, bright and wild. The air outside was thick with static. The ship rocked hard, alarms flashing. Lyra held onto her seat. "Are we going to die?" "Not today," Elias said through gritted teeth. "I promised myself I'd never fight again, but I didn't promise not to fly." He twisted the controls, diving between lightning bolts. The ship shuddered, but the pursuers fell behind one by one, their ships swallowed by the storm's rage. When it was finally quiet, Elias leaned back and sighed. "We made it," Lyra turned her head toward him. "Why did you help me?" "Humans don't help Dravaks." He looked at her for a long moment. "Because I saw enough hate in that war. I don't want to see more." She nodded, touching the stone she always held. It glowed faintly in her hand. "My mother gave me this. It helps me find her. I can feel her light." "Far away," Elias frowned. "Where?" She pointed forward, though she couldn't see. "Across the dead sea of glass, inside a tower of white light." "That's where they keep her," he froze. "The Tower of Light," he whispered. "That's not just any base. That's their main fortress." "Yes," she said. "The light hunters took her there." "She's calling for me." Elias stared at the blinking lights on the ship's console. Every part of him wanted to turn back, to stay safe, to hide like he always had. But deep down something had changed. He couldn't walk away again. He turned to Lyra. "If we go there, we might not come back." Lyra's voice was calm. I don't care. She's my mother. He nodded slowly. Then I guess we're both breaking promises today. The ship turned, gliding toward the glowing horizon, toward danger, hope, and the heart of the enemy. The next morning, the sun on Raithor rose weakly, half hidden behind thick orange clouds. The air shimmered like heat, but it was cold, too cold for life. The planet was dying, piece by piece. Elias stood on the ridge of black stone, his coat flapping in the wind. Below him stretched a land of glass and dust, broken cities half buried under sand. Towers leaned like skeletons, and rivers of acid glowed faintly through the cracks of the ground. Behind him, the ship Sparrow hummed quietly, resting in a small canyon. Lyra sat inside, humming to herself, her hands on her round stone. The sound she made was soft, almost like singing, but strange. The air around her seemed to move with it. Elias turned when he heard her voice. What are you doing? She smiled, her blank eyes facing the window. Listening. The world still has songs, even dead ones he didn't understand, but he didn't stop her. There was something peaceful about her calmness, something that made the silence less heavy. He walked into the ship, brushing dust from his jacket. We'll move in an hour. The storm's gone, but the scanners might still be watching. Lyra nodded, tracing circles on the stone. I can feel them far away. Machines in the sky? They are angry, Elias blinked. You can feel that too? Yes, she said. They burn bright in my mind. Like stars that hate. He gave a tired chuckle. Yeah, that's about right. As the sun climbed higher, they took off again. The Sparrow flew low, skimming the land like a shadow. Elias guided it with careful hands, eyes scanning the cracked horizon. Tell me about your mother, he said quietly after a while. Lyra turned her head slightly toward him. She was a scientist before the war. She built gardens inside ships. She said every world could grow again if people stopped breaking them. Elias felt something twist inside. She sounds good, she is, Lyra said. Then her voice softened. She told me humans were dangerous, but not evil. She said they forget their hearts when they're afraid. Elias didn't reply. He just looked ahead, the sky growing darker. After a few minutes, Lyra whispered, You were a soldier, weren't you? He froze. Who told you that? No one, she said. I can hear it. Your heartbeat changes when you remember pain. He sighed, staring out the window. Yeah, I was. I fought in the Glass War. Thought I was saving people. Turns out I was just helping destroy them. She didn't judge him. She only said, Then maybe this time you can save someone for real. Her words stayed in his mind long after she fell asleep. By evening, the ship crossed over a vast silver desert, the Sea of Glass. It shimmered under the pale light made of melted sand from 1,000 bombings. Every step, every sound echoed forever here. The ship's scanner blinked. Elias frowned. We've got movement, he said. Something's following. Lyra stirred awake. I know, she whispered. They move under the glass. Before he could ask what she meant, the ground cracked below. From the cracks rose metallic shapes, machines like spiders, their eyes glowing blue. Old war drones, still alive after decades, hold tight. Elias shouted, pulling the ship up. The drones fired beams of white light cutting through the sand. The Sparrow twisted and spun, the engines screaming. Elias fired back, hitting one drone and shattering it into pieces. But more came. Lyra, he called. Can you do something? She held her stone close, closed her eyes, and began to hum again. Low, steady, deep. The sound spread through the air like waves. The glass under them began to vibrate. The drones froze midair, their lights flickering. What did you do? Elias shouted. I made them sleep, she said quietly. They remember pain, too. The drones crashed into the sand, silent. Elias looked at her with wide eyes. You just stopped them. How? She tilted her head. My mother said sound is life. Everything listens if you speak the right way. He exhaled, both amazed and uneasy. Remind me never to make you angry. She giggled softly, and for the first time he smiled back. They landed at the edge of a canyon to rest for the night. The wind howled through the cliffs like voices of the dead. Elias built a small fire from scraps of metal, and they sat beside it. Lyra, he said quietly, why do you trust me? You don't even know me. She turned her blind eyes toward him. Because your voice doesn't lie. It sounds tired, but kind. He looked into the flames, his face hard to read. I made a promise after the war, he said. I promised I'd never fight again, but helping you, it's breaking that promise. She reached out her small hand and touched his arm. Then make a new one, she whispered. Promise to fight for something good. Elias looked at her, a blind child of the enemy, fearless and full of hope, and felt something deep in his chest. Yeah, he said softly. Maybe I can do that. Above them, the stars flickered through the smoke, and somewhere far away, a tower of white light blinked, like a watchful eye waiting for them to come. The tower of light stood like a wound against the dark sky. From miles away, its white glow could be seen, tall, sharp, and cruel. It reached up into the clouds, pulsing with energy, built from smooth metal that hummed like it was alive. Lyra sat beside Elias in the cockpit of the Sparrow, her head tilted toward the tower. She could feel it, even from this far. It sings, she whispered. But not a good song. Elias looked at her, then back at the radar screen. That song, he said quietly, is the sound of human machines. They built this place after the war, a research base. But what they're doing here now, it's not science. What is it then? She asked softly. Cruelty, he said. They landed their ship far beyond the tower in a valley filled with fog. The ground here was covered in white dust that clung to their boots. In the distance, searchlights swept the horizon like cold eyes. Elias opened a crate and handed Lyra a small device. It'll help you breathe inside the compound, he said. She touched it carefully. Will it make me see? He shook his head. No, but it might help you stay alive. Lyra smiled faintly. That's enough. They began walking toward the fortress through the mist. Each step echoed and each echo came back slower, as if the world itself was listening. Lyra walked close to Elias, one hand on his arm, her stone glowing faintly in her other palm. I can feel many voices, she said. Hundreds. Some are crying. Some are quiet, some are gone. Elias frowned. Prisoners? Yes, my people. Blind like me. He clenched his jaw. Then we're not leaving without them. The outer wall of the tower loomed ahead, guarded by drones and steel doors. The light from it was so bright it hurt his eyes. Elias took out a small black chip from his pocket, an old access key. Still works? Lyra asked. We'll find out, he muttered. He pressed the chip against the door's scanner. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a click. The door opened with a hiss. They slipped inside. The corridor beyond was silent and white. The walls glowed faintly and the floor reflected their footsteps. Everything smelled clean, too clean, like the air had been washed of life. Elias walked carefully, his gun ready. Lyra stayed close, her head turning from side to side. There are machines watching, she whispered. But they are confused. They don't understand what I am. He gave her a look. Let's keep it that way. They moved deeper into the tower. Through glass windows, Elias saw rooms filled with strange machines and floating tanks. Inside the tanks were bodies, small, thin, with silver skin like Lyra's. Lyra stopped walking. Her fingers trembled. Those are my people. Elias looked away. He had seen horror before, but this was worse. They're experimenting on them, he said, voice low. Trying to use your energy sense. Trying to weaponize it. Tears ran down her cheeks, though her eyes could not see. They made us blind so we would not see the stars again, she whispered. Mother said that once. Then she was right, Elias said grimly. But we'll make sure they see the stars again, all of them. They followed a narrow passage down into the lower levels. The lights flickered and a deep hum filled the air. Lyra stopped suddenly. Wait, she whispered. I can feel her, my mother. She's close. Where? She pointed forward. Below, behind that wall. Elias placed a small charge on the wall. Get back, he said. The explosion was soft but powerful. Dust filled the corridor. When it cleared, they stepped through the opening, into a dark chamber lit only by a single column of blue light. Inside the light was a figure, tall, graceful, and motionless. Lyra gasped. Mother! Elias looked around quickly. This must be the containment field. He reached for the controls, but before he could touch them, a voice echoed through the chamber. Well, the voice said, calm and cold. I never thought I'd see you again. Captain Ward. Elias froze. He knew that voice. From the shadows stepped a man in silver armor, his eyes glowing faintly. It was Commander Reich, his old friend, his old commander. Reich, Elias said softly. I should have known you'd be behind this. Reich smiled. You always did have a weakness for the enemy. His gaze turned to Lyra. And this one? This is special. The last daughter of Dravak's Mindweavers. Her mother is the key to the next stage of evolution. Elias lifted his weapon. You call this evolution? It's slavery. Reich's smile vanished. You've forgotten who you are, Elias. You're human. You're supposed to stand with us. Elias shook his head. I'm standing where right still means something. Lyra stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. Let her go, she said. You can't keep her. Reich looked amused. Blind child, you think you can stop me? Lyra tilted her head. No, but he can. Elias fired. The shot hit the console and alarm screamed as the containment field flickered and shattered. The figure inside collapsed into Elias's arms, Lyra's mother, weak but alive. Reich shouted, You'll regret this, Elias. Maybe, Elias said, carrying the alien woman. But not today. They ran as the sirens blared and red lights flashed through the corridors. The fortress shook, the walls cracking. The Tower of Light was no longer silent. It was waking up, and it was angry. Red lights flashed through the long white halls of the Tower of Light. Sirens wailed, echoing off the walls like cries from another world. Smoke filled the air. The ground shook under their feet. Elias ran fast, carrying Lyra's mother in his arms. Her silver skin glowed faintly, her breathing weak but steady. Lyra followed close behind, clutching her glowing stone. The tower's hum grew louder, deep and angry, like a beast waking from sleep. They're coming, Lyra cried. I can feel their footsteps, like thunder. Elias nodded, gripping his blaster. Then we keep moving. No stopping, not yet. Behind them, the sound of metal boots filled the corridor. Dozens of light hunters, armored soldiers, their suits shining like mirrors, charged forward. At their head marched Commander Reich, his glowing eyes locked on Elias. Stop them, Reich roared. The girl and the mother are priority targets. The human is expendable. Lyra turned, holding her stone tight. Elias, they're too many. Then we make it hard for them, he said. He stopped at a junction, dropped his bag, and pulled out 2 small round grenades. He pressed both, the lights blinking red, and rolled them down the hall. Cover your ears, he shouted. The blast wasn't fire, it was sound. A thunder shock rolled through the corridor, shaking glass and metal. The light hunters fell, clutching their helmets. Sparks burst from their armor. When the smoke cleared, Elias took Lyra's hand and ran again. Nice trick, she said breathlessly. Learned it from someone smarter than me, he said, smiling faintly. They reached a lift shaft. The doors were sealed tight, glowing with blue energy. Lyra's mother stirred weakly in Elias's arms. The code, she whispered. It's voice locked. Elias leaned closer. Can you open it? She nodded faintly. If I have strength. Lyra touched her mother's hand. You do, she whispered. You're not alone. The alien woman opened her mouth, speaking a word in a strange musical language. The air vibrated, a deep note that made the walls tremble. The lift doors slid open with a hiss. Elias stepped inside, setting her down gently. The lift began to rise. Thank you, he said softly. Lyra's mother looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. You are different, human. You do not burn with hate, he gave a small shrug. Guess I got tired of burning. The lift stopped with a jolt. The doors opened, and Reich was waiting. He stood in the center of the upper chamber, surrounded by drones and soldiers. Behind him, massive windows showed the outside storm, lightning flashing across the black sky. End of the road, old friend, Reich said. You could have had peace. Instead, you chose to die for aliens. Elias stepped forward slowly, his weapon raised. Peace built on chains isn't peace. Reich drew his blade, a white plasma sword that hissed like a living flame. Then let's see what your kind of peace looks like. He charged. Elias met him head on. Metal clashed with light, sparks flying across the floor. The air was filled with heat and noise. Elias moved fast, his old training alive again. Every strike was desperate, every move meant to protect the two behind him. Lyra crouched beside her mother, trembling. She pressed her hands to the ground, listening. Not with ears, but with her mind. She could feel the machines, the walls, the energy of the tower itself. I can stop the drones, she whispered. But I need help. Her mother nodded weakly. Then take my strength. They joined hands. A wave of blue light spread from them, flowing across the room. The drones froze mid-air, their lights flickering. then went dark, crashing to the floor like metal rain. Reich glanced at them. What? That moment of surprise was enough. Elias slammed his shoulder into Reich and drove him back into a console. The blade fell from Reich's hand. Elias grabbed it and pointed it at his chest. It's over, Elias said. Reich smiled bitterly. You can kill me, Elias, but it won't matter. Humanity will never stop. You think you're saving them? I'm not saving humanity, Elias said coldly. I'm saving what's left of it, he swung. The blade flashed white, then went still. Reich fell. Silence. Only the sound of rain tapping against the glass remained. Elias dropped the sword and fell to his knees, breathing hard. Lyra and her mother stood beside him. The tower began to shake again, systems failing, alarms blaring. The reactor, Elias said. The tower's dying. We need to go. He lifted Lyra's mother again, and they ran through the chaos toward the hangar bay. When they reached the doors, Lyra stopped and turned back one last time. He was your friend, she said softly. Yeah, Elias said. And maybe that's why I had to stop him. They boarded the Sparrow just as the ground split open beneath the fortress. Fire climbed up the tower, tearing it apart. As the ship lifted off, the Tower of Light exploded in a storm of white and red. The shock wave rolled across the wasteland, blowing dust and smoke into the sky. From the cockpit, Lyra pressed her hands to the window. He's gone, she whispered. Elias nodded. Yeah, but what he stood for, that's what we have to change. Lyra turned her blind eyes toward him. Then let's change it. The ship flew through the clouds, leaving the burning tower behind. 3 souls against the stars, carrying hope through the ashes of war. The Sparrow soared through a burning sky. Below, the Tower of Light was falling, its great metal spine cracking, its white glow turning to fire. The air shook with thunder and smoke. Inside the cockpit, Elias gripped the controls, steering through waves of debris. Sparks burst from the ship's panels. Warning lights blinked red. Engines failing, the system voice said calmly. I noticed. Elias muttered. Lyra sat beside him, holding her mother's hand. The older alien woman was pale, her breathing shallow. Her energy had been drained by the years of imprisonment. Hold on, Elias said. We just need to clear the blast zone. Lyra turned her blind eyes toward him. She's not waking up, she said softly. She's fading. Elias looked back at her mother. Still, fragile, glowing faintly like dying starlight. She saved us, he said quietly. Now it's our turn. He pushed the ship higher, through clouds that glowed orange from the fires below. But the radar was screaming. 3 hunters behind us, Elias said. Reich's drones, the last ones. The ship shook as laser fire struck the rear engines. Alarms blared again. Lyra gripped her seat. Can we outrun them? Not with the engines this bad, Elias said. But I can buy us time. He set the autopilot and stood up. You take care of your mother. I'll handle them, Lyra frowned. How? He gave a half smile. Old soldier tricks. She reached for him, her small hand trembling. Don't go. He paused, looking at her. You've got your mother. She needs you. The galaxy needs both of you. I've done enough running, she shook her head. You don't have to die. He knelt down, meeting her blank gaze. Maybe not. But if someone doesn't stop them, you'll never reach orbit. Promise me you'll keep flying. Tears fell from her closed eyes. I promise. Elias stood, grabbed his rifle, and opened the rear hatch. The wind roared in, carrying heat and sparks. Outside, the sky was chaos, lightning and flame, the ghosts of a dying world. He climbed out onto the wing, his coat whipping in the wind. The Sparrow rolled slightly under his feet. The hunters drew closer, their sleek metal bodies glowing red. Elias raised his weapon and fired. The first shot hit one drone straight through the engine. It exploded into pieces, scattering like burning glass. The other 2 fired back. Beams of light sliced across the air, barely missing him. The ship shook again. He ducked, reloaded, and fired again, destroying the second drone. The last one dived straight at him. Elias held his ground. When it was only meters away, he shouted, "For the ones who still have hope," and shot the reactor pack on its belly. The explosion lit up the sky like a new sun. Inside the ship, Lyra screamed his name. Elias! There was silence and only the sound of fire outside. Then she felt it, a faint heartbeat in the metal of the ship like an echo. Her mother stirred weakly. He did it, she whispered. He gave us a path. Lyra wiped her tears. Then I'll finish what he started. She sat in the pilot seat, her small hands trembling as she touched the controls. Show me the stars, she whispered. Her mother smiled faintly. I will guide you. Together they lifted the ship higher. The flames below faded into cloud. The sky grew darker until it turned black and endless. The stars appeared. Lyra gasped softly. She couldn't see them, but she could feel them. Each one a song, each one alive. He's still here, she said. I can feel his light. Her mother nodded weakly. Some lights never die. Back on the planet, deep in the ruins of the fortress, the wind howled through the smoke. In the wreckage of the sparrow's broken wing, a hand moved. Elias opened his eyes. His suit was torn, his face burned, but he was alive. He coughed, groaning, looking up at the sky. The stars shimmered faintly above. Guess I'm not done yet, he muttered, half smiling. He pulled himself up, limping toward the horizon. The tower's wreckage burned behind him. Its white light now nothing more than ash. He looked up again, whispering, "Fly far, little one." And somewhere out there, across the black ocean of space, a small ship carried a blind alien girl and her mother. Free at last. Elias Ward had made his choice. Not between war and peace, not between human and alien, but between fear and hope. And in that choice, the stars themselves seemed to breathe again. The stars stretched like a silver ocean around the small ship. For the first time in years, Lyra felt no fear, only quiet. Endless quiet. She sat in the pilot's chair, her hands resting lightly on the controls. Her blind eyes were closed, but her mind was open, sensing the rhythm of the stars. Every pulse of light, every whisper of radiation, she felt it like music. Beside her, her mother rested, finally free from pain. The wounds of the fortress had left her weak, but her voice was calm, soft like wind through leaves. You can rest now, Lyra said gently. Her mother smiled faintly. Not yet, my child. Not until we find a world where your kind can live again, a place where eyes and hearts are both open. Lyra nodded. Then I'll take us there. Elias wanted that too. At his name, silence filled the cabin. For a moment, both of them listened, not with ears, but with memory. Lyra could still feel him. His heartbeat, distant but strong, echoing somewhere across the stars. He had stayed behind, but he had not disappeared. In her mind, she could almost hear his voice. Keep flying, kid. The stars are watching. Weeks passed. The sparrow drifted between systems, moving from shadow to shadow, avoiding patrols and broken satellites. Lyra learned to fly by sound and energy. Every time the engines hummed, she felt their pattern in her skin. Sometimes her mother would guide her hands and say, "Now listen to the way the universe breathes. That's how you'll know where to go." And Lyra would smile and say, "That's how he flew too." They crossed dust clouds that shimmered blue. They saw shattered moons and burning suns. Every place carried scars of war, proof of what fear had done to both humans and Dravaks. But beyond the ruins, they began to see small lights, signs of rebuilding, of life returning. Not human or alien, but something together. It gave them hope. One day, as they floated near an abandoned relay station, a weak signal reached their radio. It was human. Static at first, then a voice, unbroken but clear. "This is Colony Arc 7, requesting aid. We, survivors of the Wraithor conflict, need assistance." Lyra's mother sat up, eyes wide. "A colony? That's human." "Yes," Lyra said slowly, "but they sound afraid." Her mother hesitated. "They may not welcome us." Lyra's face was calm. "Maybe they will if we show them what Elias showed us." She turned the ship toward the signal. The colony was small, metal domes scattered across a rocky world surrounded by barren hills. When the Sparrow landed, guards came running, weapons raised. The leader, a man with gray hair and tired eyes, shouted, "Identify yourselves." Lyra stepped down from the ship, her bare feet touching the dust. The guards froze when they saw her, silver skin, blind eyes glowing faintly. "I am Lyra," she said simply. "I came from Wraithor. I bring peace," the leader frowned. "You're Dravak, the enemy." Lyra shook her head. "There is no enemy anymore. Only survivors." He looked uncertain. Then her mother stepped out of the ship, weak but standing tall. "Your people and mine have both lost too much," she said softly. "Let's not lose the future too." The man lowered his weapon slowly. "And who taught you to speak like that?" Lyra smiled. "A human." Days turned into weeks again. The humans allowed them to stay at first with caution, then with kindness. Lyra helped fix machines using her sense of energy. Her mother taught the colonists how to purify water using sound waves, a gift from Dravak science. Little by little, fear faded. Humans and aliens began to work together. One night, Lyra stood outside feeling the cold air against her face. Above her, the stars glowed bright. She could feel them, alive, singing. Her mother joined her quietly. "He would be proud," she said. Lyra nodded. "He is proud. I can feel him." She raised her hand toward the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Elias." Far away on the silent remains of Raithor, a signal blinked on an old transmitter. A human figure, burned, limping, sat beside the ruins of the fortress. Elias Ward looked up at the same stars, smiling faintly. He heard her voice in the wind. "Thank you, Elias," he laughed softly. "You're welcome, kid." Then he looked at the horizon, no longer red with fire, but silver with dawn. He picked up a small transmitter, pressed a button, and said, "If anyone's listening, there's still hope out there. Find it." Years later, legends would spread across the colonies, about a blind alien girl and a broken human who saved each other when no one else would. They would say the girl grew up to lead the first alliance, the one that united human and Dravak worlds, and they would say she always carried a small round stone, glowing faintly with warmth, and that when she spoke, her voice sounded like music that even the stars could hear. In the end, the universe remembered, not the battles, not the fear, but the courage of a single human who chose to help, and the blind girl who taught the stars to sing again. Humanity wasn't the strongest species in the galaxy, but it was the one that still believed in light.